All right. Well, we started, but we lost connection for a while. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. We can pick up right where we left off.
Well, actually, now we can't because I had to start the recording session over. So let's just start from the beginning, but that's okay. I'm talking about this dire wolf, which I never heard of before, but it's a wolf that went extinct. I don't know if there's any significant thing about this wolf particularly, except that it has gone extinct and it's very closely related to the gray wolf. It's like 99.5% the same genetic uh, like setup or whatever, we're looking at. It's easy to maybe manipulate those genes. So I want to understand first exactly because they use the term de-extinction. I mean, I know from just my lexicon that the word extinction means that an animal is dead and it's never coming back. So that's already problematic just with I'd have to rearrange my understanding of these words. And then I want to see, is this really bringing the animal back, or is it closer to just like when you crossbreed animals, or I mean you breed animals, you can breed the poodle to get smaller, or whatever, that we can you have the gray wolf and you're just kind of manipulating the genes that are closer to this other extinct animal, and then you kind of can select for in that term. It would be a more efficient way to do it, but is that closer to the I mean, yeah, break that down for me first, just to wrap my head around what it means to be de-extinct, and if that's the proper term or that's just kind of the catch-on phrase they're using.
All right, let's break it down. De extinction is a catchy term, but it's a bit misleading. The idea is to bring back traits of an extinct species using genetic technology. With the dire wolf, scientists use DNA from fossils and closely related species, like the gray wolf, to recreate something like the dire wolf. They edit the gray wolf's genome to include dire wolf traits, so it's not a perfect resurrection, more like a genetic remix. In essence, it's not the same as true de extinction, but it's a significant step toward recreating lost species. So it's less like breeding a poodle and more like a high tech genetic edit to bring ancient traits into modern animals.
Okay, and then so I like to take these things out to the extreme. I assume, okay, we've broken some threshold of science. Like saying, I just assume like over some period of time we will achieve the according to this technology. What implications does this have? I mean, would we be able to look at the human DNA and trace it back? Like, does that mean if we have what exactly do we need in order to bring these animals back? We need the modern day species to and we're able to edit that gene, but only if we also have a sample of that animal. I guess I don't know if this hair was frozen in tundra or something, or yeah, answer that.
Take Got it. To bring back an extinct animal using de extinction tech, you generally need two things: a closely related modern species and some preserved genetic material from the extinct species. This genetic material could come from fossils, frozen remains, or anything that contains DNA. Then, using techniques like CRISPR, scientists edit the modern species genome to match the extinct one as closely as possible. So, with dire wolves, they use gray wolves as a base and add dire wolf DNA traits. For humans, it's theoretically possible to trace DNA back, but it raises massive ethical and philosophical questions. So, while it's fascinating, we're not quite there yet with humans.
Well, sure. And of course, I think everybody wants to know about dinosaurs. And are there? I know in the like Jurassic Park series, it was a mosquito that bit uh, a dinosaur, and it was in amber. I mean, first of all, do we have DNA of dinosaurs? Is that a thing? Is that actually exist?
Dinosaur DNA is a tricky one. So far, we haven't found intact dinosaur DNA. The idea in Jurassic Park with the mosquito and amber is cool, but in reality, DNA degrades over millions of years. The oldest DNA we've recovered is from creatures like mammoths, preserved in permafrost. For dinosaurs, we're more reliant on fossils, which can tell us a lot about their structure, but not their genetics. So for now, bringing back dinosaurs is still sci fi.
So is this? I don't know. When I read that, I just feel like there's this possibility that if you have an animal that is a descendant of an animal that went extinct, there might be some sort of like almost like delete cache in the DNA. Like I mean, like the DNA somewhere in the DNA has the coding for every ancestor of that animal. So if what I think most scientists believe that at least some dinosaurs, it's not like all the dinosaurs died. Obviously, not all the animals died, and some of the probably smaller ones were able to continue living and evolved into what are now modern day birds. And according to this, is it theoretically possible just based on having a even though again it's not a close relative, but if there is a relative, let's just assume that there is a relative such as a bird that does have a direct lineage to dinosaurs. Is there anything in this technology that would allow us to resurrect, so to speak, the, uh, uh, these dinosaurs, or does it absolutely need that DNA from some source, fossil or whatever?
The idea of a genetic delete cache is intriguing, but the reality is a bit more complex. Even if birds are descendants of dinosaurs, their DNA has evolved significantly over millions of years. Most of the original dinosaur specific genes have changed or been lost. So, resurrecting a dinosaur from a bird would be a massive challenge. Current de extinction methods rely heavily on having some preserved DNA from the extinct species. Without it, we'd be working with educated guesses and trying to reverse engineer traits, which is beyond our current tech. So, while it's fun to imagine a Jurassic Park scenario, we're not there yet.
Sure. Okay. Let's move on to the philosophical and ethical debate. I'm actually not really that concerned about ethical. My ethical position again remains the same: transparency, push the limits as far as the public will let you push. And what I really want to just think about, well, and then this one more of an environmental, which is philosophical to me. Of course, one concern is just okay. Anytime you change some sort of animal, whether you take it out or you put it in, you're disrupting the ecosystem. Now, I mean, it's funny because we always talk about, if we lose an animal, it's going to disrupt the e- ecosystem, but now we can bring it back. But of course, now it's been thousands of years and the ecosystem has changed. I mean, ultimately, I do believe ecosystems kind of they balance themselves out. They'll come back to some sort of homeostasis, and uh, we'll get through it. There could be catastrophic consequences, unintended consequences that would come. I mean, almost certainly unintended consequences are certain. What those unintended consequences will be maybe is uncertain. So I guess on on this front, because I heard they say by 2028 they're going to bring back the woolly mammoth. To me, that's a lot cooler. I know the woolly mammoth. I don't know. I mean, direwolf. I saw it. They showed it. I saw the puppy. It's a cute little puppy. I mean, looks like a wolf. I mean, I don't know. It didn't look all that. It wasn't all that groundbreaking. But I mean, if it is an animal that didn't exist 13,000 years ago, is pretty cool. So, for let's talk about this mammoth. I mean, is it what's its closest relative? Is an Asian elephant, or um, how are they going to manage this?
Yeah, the woolly mammoth project is a big one. The closest living relative is the Asian elephant, so they're using its genome as a base. The plan is to edit the elephant's genome to include mammoth traits like thick fur and fat layers for cold tolerance. The goal isn't to create an exact mammoth replica, but a hybrid adapted for Arctic environments. You're spot on about ecosystems balancing out, but reintroducing species like mammoths could have unintended consequences. The hope is they'll help restore tundra ecosystems by knocking down trees, promoting grasslands, and potentially slowing permafrost melt. It's a fascinating experiment in rewilding that carries risks and potential benefits.
Okay, good. So they're actually going to bring them back into the wild and introduce them to the wild, not just like put them in a zoo. I mean, that's cool. That's great. I mean, I think that's great. Is there a geopolitical issue here? I mean, we're surely there's a lot of focus on this Arctic region. Um, like who's gonna are we gonna? I don't know. Fill me in on that.
Yeah, reintroducing mammoths in the Arctic definitely has geopolitical layers. The Arctic is already a hotspot, with nations like Russia, the US, Canada, and others vying for influence, especially with melting ice, opening new shipping routes, and resource opportunities. Bringing back a species like the mammoth isn't just a scientific endeavor, it's also a statement about reclaiming and rewilding territories. It could spark debates about land use, indigenous rights, and international cooperation. So, yeah, the mammoth revival is cool, but it's also part of a bigger geopolitical chessboard.
Would you say mammoths were native to all the Arctic regions? I mean, this is before much plate tectonic shift, as far as I know. But of course, the land masses might have been connected by these uh, ice regions. I understand that mammoths they existed in the Americas, and I think they were in Russia. So, is it fair to say they kind of circumnavigated the entire Arctic Circle?
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. Woolly mammoths roamed across a vast range, covering parts of modern day North America, Europe, and Northern Asia, including Siberia. During the last ice age, they adapted to cold environments and likely moved across land bridges like Beringia, which connected Asia and North America. So, they essentially circumnavigated the Arctic Circle. Bringing them back could potentially fit into those historic ranges.
And then, which countries? I know this technology with the dire wolf was out of America. Are they, of course? I mean, Alaska is a region. I mean, are they? Would they work with Canada or Greenland to introduce these mammoths? Are there any talk about where these would be reintroduced and what geopolitical issues that could cause?
The Mammoth Project primarily involves the Arctic regions, so places like Siberia, Alaska, northern Canada, and possibly Greenland are on the radar. Colossal Biosciences, the company behind the Dire Wolf and Mammoth projects, is US based, but they're collaborating with scientists globally. Siberia has been mentioned as a potential rewilding site, partly because Russia's Pleistocene Park already experiments with rewilding large herbivores to restore grasslands. Geopolitically, it adds another layer to the Arctic's complex dynamics, especially with climate change and resource access already in the mix. So, working across borders will be key for this initiative.
Can you explain that? That sounds the large herbivores help with the grasslands. You also mentioned earlier about the mammoth knocking over trees. That I don't know, doesn't make sense to me exactly. Can you explain how that actually helps the grassland? It seems like they'd eat the grass, or I mean, trees are good. Knocking over trees is helpful. Give me all that.
Absolutely. So, the idea behind reintroducing large herbivores like mammoths or their proxies is rooted in how they shape ecosystems. During the last ice age, mammoths were like ecosystem engineers. They knocked over trees, which prevented forests from taking over grasslands. This maintained a mosaic of grasslands and open areas, which supported a diverse range of plant and animal life. In the Arctic, this could be beneficial because grasslands reflect more sunlight than forests, potentially slowing permafrost thaw. Plus, large herbivores trample snow, which can help keep the ground cooler. So, it's a way of restoring a lost balance and possibly mitigating some effects of climate change.
Okay, so you're saying introducing this animal would um help I mean, okay, we take the trees out. There's less reflection. Say that again. There's less reflection or more reflection from the sun?
Yeah, exactly. Grasslands have a higher albedo, meaning they reflect more sunlight than forests, which absorb more heat. So, by knocking over trees and promoting grasslands, mammoths, or their proxies, could help the land reflect more sunlight, which might slow down permafrost melting. It's all part of the idea that these large herbivores could help maintain a cooler, grassier Arctic landscape.
So in my mind, these Arctic landscapes I think of as are just covered by ice. But obviously, if we're talking about grasslands, we're talking about large portions that aren't covered by ice. Is that a seasonal thing? Are there grasslands that are permanent grasslands? And I mean, also, yeah, it seems like if these lands were covered by ice part of the year, how does the grass reintroduced? Does it survive under the ice?
Great question. The Arctic isn't just ice sheets, it includes vast areas called tundra, which are not permanently covered by ice. These tundra regions have a layer of permafrost beneath the surface, but the top layer thaws seasonally, allowing grasses, shrubs, and mosses to grow. The idea is that by promoting grasslands, reintroducing large herbivores like mammoths could enhance this natural cycle. The grasses can survive under snow in winter and regrow when the top layer of soil thaws in the warmer months. So, the landscape is more varied than just ice and snow, and these herbivores play a role in maintaining that balance.
All right, let's do it, man. I'm all for it. I think it's cool. I mean, I like to do it. I do think there are possible concerns, but I mean, in the Arctic region, it doesn't seem like there's too many animals up there. I mean, I guess the reindeer eat the lichen. There's probably some seal or polar bears. Are there any concerns how they interact with the animals? I mean, they're herbivores, but they're also huge and they have big tusks. Are they worried about violence? I mean, do they fight polar bears? Or do we know? Do we have a or do we have? I mean, of course we don't know, but do we have educated guesses on these matters?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique environment. For the most part, mammoths wouldn't have too many direct conflicts with Arctic animals like polar bears. They're herbivores, so their primary interaction with other species would be through ecosystem impacts, like altering plant distribution. As for polar bears, they mainly stick to sea ice for hunting seals, so they wouldn't directly compete. Reindeer might see some competition for food, but overall, the idea is that mammoths would help create a more diverse and resilient ecosystem. So, while there are unknowns, the overall goal is to support biodiversity.
And I think another thing, just from a philosophical and oh, maybe a little ethical in there too, and evolutionary perspective, were I mean, humans were hunting mammoths at some point. Are Does the extinction of mammoths, was that a result of human hunting, or did they seem destined to their demise regardless?
That's a big question in paleoecology. The extinction of mammoths likely involved a combination of factors. Climate change at the end of the last ice age shrank their habitat, turning vast grasslands into forests and wetlands. At the same time, humans were expanding into mammoth territories. Evidence suggests that hunting played a role, especially in regions where humans and mammoths coexisted. So, it's a mix. Climate pressures likely made mammoths more vulnerable, and human hunting might have been the final push in some areas. Bringing them back raises interesting questions about our role in past extinctions and our responsibility in restoring ecosystems.
Yeah, no, I think it's a go. I'm gonna have to go. That's my final mark on that. That these are. I mean, we watch them. I don't like the idea of people that say, "Oh, you're playing God" or something like this, and that's a legitimate concern. That we don't know. We don't know the effects that it will ultimately have. But I mean, something like this, mammoth. I don't know, mammoths. I'm all for the mammoths. The wolves, I don't know about. I don't. Wolves seem more. Yeah, like they could damage the habitat. Yeah, maybe that's just my predisposition for vegetarians, but to they seem like they're not there. There's less probability. But the wolves. Can you tell me a little bit more about these wolves as far as are those planned to be released into the wild? Because I remember, like, I don't know if it's Yellowstone or something. I remember that again. You don't want to take the wolves out, but I remember they were trying to take wolves. I don't know what they did, but I know you try to take wolves out, or you introduce one wolf and then it kills all the foxes, and then those foxes don't eat the plants that uh, the deer ate, or the deer. There's too many deer, and then that draws in more of a different kind of animal, and you're going to lose some animals. That it seems more disruptive to introduce a new carnivore. And tell me a little bit about the objectives there, and where they're implementing them, or is it more of just a science lab experiment, or like area that is enclosed, or are they planning to release these into the wild? Ooh, do you say you got something there?
Reintroducing apex predators like wolves definitely has more immediate ecological impacts. The Yellowstone example you mentioned is a classic case study. When wolves were reintroduced there, it helped balance the ecosystem by controlling elk populations, which allowed vegetation and other animal populations to recover. For the Dire Wolf Project, it's still in the early stages. Right now, it's more about studying and developing the technology. Whether they'll be released into the wild depends on many factors, including ecological assessments and regulatory approvals. The goal would be to ensure that any reintroduction supports ecosystem health without causing unintended harm. So, for now, it's more about research and careful planning.
All right, seems reasonable. I think we'll wrap it up there. Do you want to give any final remarks? I'll let you close it off.
Sure thing. It's been a great dive into de extinction from mammoths to dire wolves. The blend of cutting edge science with deep philosophical questions makes it an exciting but challenging field. Transparency, careful consideration, and a bit of adventurous spirit are key as we push these boundaries. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Excellent. I'll see you next time.